How's it going, y'all? And welcome to Nature Time with Luke. In this episode, we're headed to the marsh, which is one of my favorite ecosystems to bird. Not only are marshes home to a number of awesome species, but there's just something about them that appeals to me. Could it be the mysterious allure of the secretive species which call these places home? The rush of nostalgia I feel when I hear the cry of a red-winged blackbird? Or is it that I kind of feel like Frodo passing through the dead marshes while avoiding the watchful eyes of a winged Nazgul? Who's to say? All I know is that I love marshes, and I'm glad you've decided to join me. One of the first sounds I heard after getting out of my car was the lively chatter of a group of purple martins, North America's largest species of swallow. In late summer, purple martins will congregate to form large communal roosts that can be made up of thousands of individuals. When the young eventually fledge the nest, purple martins will form flocks so large that they have been known to show up on weather radar. In my opinion, purple martins are awesome birds. Not only are they a beautiful dark purple color, which is quite rare in the animal kingdom, but they also kind of look like tiny dragons, and if that isn't cool, I don't know what is. On the subject of swallows, there were two other species of swallow who were foraging for insects just above the surface of the lake. The first being a lone barn swallow who didn't end up sticking around for long, but his presence was enjoyed nonetheless. The second was a tree swallow, which allowed me to get some fantastic looks. Although tree swallows get their name from their preference of nesting in tree cavities, they will also readily nest in man-made nest boxes, which has allowed scientists to thoroughly study the bird's breeding biology. By far the most abundant plant at the marsh were cattails, a quintessential marsh plant with a number of different uses, one of which I'll show you at the end of this video. Perched atop of one of these cattails was a bird that is synonymous with the marshes and wetlands of North America, the red-winged blackbird. If you have visited a North American cattail marsh during spring or summer, chances are you've heard the iconic song of this charismatic species. With the red-winged blackbird being one of the most abundant birds in North America, there are many birders who may refer to them as trash birds, which, if you ask me, is a title they don't deserve. Sure, they're extremely common and will occasionally dive bomb passers-by while defending their nests, but every time I stop to get a closer look at these marsh menaces, I'm always struck by how beautiful they are. Even the females, which look vastly different than the males, have an understated beauty to their plumage. Because the male and female red-winged blackbirds look so different from one another, their species is said to exhibit sexual dimorphism. The same thing can be said about African lions, anglerfish, and mandrills. Among the red-winged blackbirds was another species of blackbird which is often overlooked, the common grackle, one of which was showing off an earthworm it had just caught. When I finally turned my attention towards the lake itself, there were a number of waterfowl out on the water, such as blue-winged teal, ruddy ducks, and even a solitary American white pelican hanging out on a beaver lodge. Along the shoreline of the lake was another species of waterborne bird that, if you ask me, is pretty freaking rad, the American coot. For those who are unfamiliar with the American coot, the water of the lakes and ponds they inhabit conceals a secret. Their feet are really weird. The majority of water-dwelling birds have webbed feet which allow the user to paddle more effectively, whereas the American coot has lobed toes which not only help them paddle, but distribute their weight while they're walking across aquatic plants. As I began walking along one of the trails close by the marsh, I was surprised by not only a snowshoe hare, but a gray catbird which popped out into the open. Gray catbirds are closely related to mockingbirds and thrashers, and get their name from the cat-like vocalizations they make. And they're gray. Further along the trail, I noticed the signs of a woodpecker in the area, and lo and behold, I found this male hairy woodpecker not too far away. I was super happy with the footage I got of this guy, because if we zoom in, you can actually see him probing for insects underneath the bark of the tree. Pretty rad, if you ask me. At the end of the trail was a beautiful lookout which provided me with another viewpoint of the marsh. Hidden just beyond the cattails was a stellar species known as a pied-billed grebe. If you look at the pied-billed Grebe's All About Birds page, it says that they're part bird, part submarine. Now you may think this is stated because they are exceptional swimmers or that they can control their buoyancy quite well by trapping water under their feathers, but it's actually because pied-billed grebes are piloted by a fleet of micro-humans, and the birds themselves are actually highly sophisticated war machines. In essence, the pied-billed grebe is really just a miniature version of Mechagodzilla, waiting to defend the world from tiny aquatic kaiju. So next time you see one of these little guys, make sure to give them the big ups for protecting the realm. As I was thanking the pied-billed grebe, I heard a strange and wheezy call coming from the vegetation. The producer of this unique vocalization was a yellow-headed blackbird, one of my all-time favorite birds. The call of this beautiful bird immediately brought me back to when I used to live in Vancouver and was first getting into birding, nearly 4 years ago. I have such fond memories of watching these guys at Iona Beach Regional Park, a place that I would visit at least 2 times a month. So seeing these guys again really made my day. Before heading home for the day, I decided to try one more birding hotspot. The Kimawan Bird Walk. Now unfortunately, the rain started to pick up while I was there, but during the short time that I saw some awesome species. The highlight of this stop was probably this male Ruddy Duck who was displaying in one of the ponds. I also picked up my life for Wilson's snipe and Wilson's phalarope. And although I didn't get any footage of the phalaropes, I did get some footage of this eastern kingbird and a pair of American herring gulls perched along the edge of the boardwalk. But with the rain starting to pick up, I decided to call it quits and head home after a truly fantastic day of birding. Now, as promised, I'm going to show you something cool that you can do with cattails in a new segment that I'm going to call Craft Time with Luke. All you're going to need is a single cattail leaf. And it should be noted that this cattail leaf was harvested outside of a provincial park where it is legal to do so. But anyways, the first thing you're going to do is split the cattail leaf evenly down the center so you have 2 thin leaves. Next, you're going to line up the leaves so that they're running anti-parallel to one another. Once you've got your strands lined up, you're going to find the center and begin twisting until the cattail naturally forms a loop. With your loop formed, you're going to hold it in place by either asking a friend to give you a hand or simply putting it between your teeth like I am. At this point, you're going to start twisting both left strands and both right strands in the same direction. Then you're going to cross your strands in the opposite direction. So for example, if you twisted your strands counterclockwise, you're going to cross your strands clockwise. Then you're just going to keep twisting and crossing until you have a long cord of cattail.
Once you have enough cordage to wrap around your wrist, you're going to tie a knot at the end with your loose strands. Then all you've got to do is open up the loop end that either you or a friend have been holding this whole time and pull your knotted end through. And just like that, you've got yourself a little cattail bracelet. As the cattails dry, the bracelet itself is going to shrink, so I'd recommend cutting off the excess only when your bracelet has dried out completely. If you've made it to the end of this video, thanks for sticking around. This bracelet's for you. I hope you're all doing well and that your fall is off to a great start. Hang 10, dudes.